All right. It is just after 1 p.m. on a beautiful sunny Friday here in Kokomo, where I'm reporting live. And I'd like to welcome you all to today's webinar on Chairside, mouth-to-mouth with intraoral scanning and Chairside design to follow. So while people just keep hopping on here, we've got a pretty good crowd today already. That's really great to see. I see some familiar names on this list. So welcome to the dental community. We really feel that it is a community, more so today than ever before. With all the disruptions to our industry that technology is bringing, comes massive opportunity. We are seeing the lines blurred between the traditional definitions of what is what. So for example, dental labs and orthodontic labs used to be very different. Well, today, if you buy technology and software, there's no reason you can't take on applications from both of those very traditionally separated sides. And the same goes for Chairside. Like it or not, clinics have an appetite to do some of the things that labs traditionally did in-house. It's the reality that we have in front of us. Technology is available to those that have an appetite for it, and those that are able to harness and ramp up quickly in today's world, they just have a competitive advantage to grow their businesses and ultimately provide a much higher level of patient care. And that is really something to remind everybody. That's why we all do what we do. It comes down to patient care at the end of the day. Everybody has teeth, and everybody wants their teeth cared for professionally, with the highest level of quality and so forth. So that's why we do what we do. Today, we're basically going to take an hour to review what is happening in the world of Chairside in terms of scanning and design. So we're limiting the scope to those two things. We will not go into manufacturing or making of anything. We have webinars that we do regularly at Proto3000, and we will ensure that you are invited to future webinars where we talk about printing and milling in a clinical setting. But today, we'll basically go through two parts, the scanning and the design aspect. So let's jump right into the agenda. First of all, we've got a quick introduction, which I am now doing. My name is Scott Corman. I am the Dental Division Manager at Proto3000. We are a fast-growing, competent group of individuals who are very, very dedicated to digital dental technology. And we have a mission to remain, not only remain relevant, but continue to be the most relevant company in our space. And by relevancy, I just mean staying in touch with the latest market developments so that we can kind of do the research for you. There's a lot of noise out there. If you go to the internet and start researching what is the best intraoral scanner, for example, you'll be quickly overwhelmed with information. So what we do is we put ourselves in the shoes of the clinician, and say, well, what are we looking for? Well, speed is important, of course. We want to minimize chair time. Accuracy is very important. Almost nothing else matters if you have an inaccurate scan. And then you want like a dependable, efficient, and simple process or workflow, and good integration as well. Here at Proto3000, we are very, very proud to be as open source as possible. We make everything open source work as easy as a closed system would work. That's our mission. So we take that to heart, and we'll show you today the integration between the intraoral scanners that we offer through Medit, and how that workflow transitions into the Chairside design software that we offer through Exocad. So moving on to the other introductions. Today on the call, we have Mr. Mike Wang. He's a CAD/CAM specialist with Proto3000. He has over a decade of experience in a prosthodontic environment, and he brings a lot of talent to our team. He's very on the ball, sharp as a whip, and we feel very fortunate to have him on our side. So Mike, if you want to pop your camera on and give a quick hello to everybody out there.
Guys.
Mike, smiling away. Did you want to give an interesting fact quickly about yourself? I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Oh man,
don't have to. It's up to you.
I can grow a really awesome beard for a Chinese guy. Most Chinese people cannot grow facial hair, so this is.
There we go.
Yeah.
And the beard helps.
Yeah.
Contrast for the teeth, and
yeah,
that's why we're here. So
yeah.
Tying it all together. Great, thanks, Mike. And then we also have on the call, we're very, very fortunate today to have Mr. Ben LaRoche from Exocad. Ben, did you want to pop your camera on and say hello to everybody?
Yeah, here you go. Hey guys, hey everybody. I'm Exocad Canadian Sales Manager, and as well as I also provide application support. So kind of a dual role here that's new to Exocad, but I just fit right in, and I love this company. And Proto, we've always been in contact. We've known each other for a long, long time. So you're in great hands, not even worried about anything. And I also have the great beard. I think I'm trying to inspire Mike a little bit. So.
What about me? I got a lot of catching up to do, I guess.
I thought you had a mustache earlier. Where did it go? Where'd it go?
Oh, that's true. You know what? I could put that mustache back on. That is a really great suggestion. And you know what? When I hear a great suggestion, I like to implement it right away. So there you go.
There you go. All right.
There you go. Great. How's that?
Now we got the French crowd going too.
Okay. Well, it's almost 10 after, so let's hop right into it. We've got, as I mentioned, 2 parts today. We have the scanning component, which should take about 20 minutes. Mike will lead us through that. He'll basically show you the interface, how the software works. He'll go through a live scan and highlight some of the important features and things to look out for. The concept here is just a brief how-to, a familiarization, orientation with the process to make you comfortable with the idea that this is very possible in today's world. And if you haven't already tried an intraoral scanner, we're happy to arrange a personal demo or a web demonstration for you to do more of a deep dive. So with that, I'm going to allow screen sharing, and we'll get Mike to take over the screen and jump right into the scanning. Take it away, Mike.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. So this is the scanning interface for Medit Link. So I know it's quite a bit of information to take in, but if you look on the left-hand side here, you have a dashboard. So some of the key features to note, especially for clinic, how much data are you storing? So you have 5 terabytes total, and it's constantly letting you know, am I, getting close to the limit? To be honest with you, I've yet to see someone reach the 5 terabyte limit, but if it does go that way, then there is additional cloud storage. Some of these statistics are really fantastic to show you, like if you're looking in this column here, as well as the graph area, it's letting you know how often you're using the i500. So how many cases total, how much time recorded for scanning. And then the fantastic function of Medit Link is that nothing slips through the cracks. So traditionally people would be sending STL files over email, and something can honestly just slip through the cracks. So nothing can really go missing here. You have your pending cases, accepted, shipped, and your completed cases. So tallying all these things really shows you the total value of your i500 and how frequently it's being used. So if we jump into a case box here and create a form, okay, so for our case today, we're going to be scanning a single unit prep, the 1.6. So the general functionality here, you're selecting what type of restoration you want to be doing. So in this case, we'll do a crown. Your material selection, so glass ceramic, typically for single unit restorations, shade, and then you can favorite your options if you're finding that's something that you're repeatedly using. You have a couple options on the side here as well. So if you're prepping and you want to copy the patient's existing tooth, then you can do a preoperative scan, and then it'll copy it over for your restoration to be milled. So we'll go ahead and scan. So please bear with the scanning speed. Typically when we're doing these demonstrations, it does slow the scanner down just a tad bit. If we were to do a live demo for you coming to your office, or it would be significantly faster in that way. So one thing to note on the bottom left here, it'll automatically prompt you for calibration. So I know that question comes up, how often do we have to calibrate? It's automated for you. So it'll prompt you when you need it. Especially if you're moving around the unit from operatory to operatory, it may require calibration. So go ahead and scan this.
Hey, Mike, while you're doing the scan,
Mhm.
if you could just share with the attendees on this webinar, how do they know that the scan data is being captured?
For sure. Okay, so there's a couple filters that you can toggle through. So this is the color filter. So if for whatever reason you want to send or scan this, export this color file, in our case, we used this is a 3D printed model, so it's great. But if you had tissue, gingival, you can scan it in color. One of the great functions is the reliability map. So in this scenario, you're looking for an opaque green, and then you know that this data is ready to be sent out and scanned. Any of the like sort of marbled areas, you just need to go over that area again just to double check. So especially areas like contact are very important. So I can go back and touch some of these areas up. So one of the key functions of the Medit i500 is the ability to control the scan depth. So some scanners, clinicians who are beginning to scan maybe are dragging the tip along the occlusal surface. You can lower it down to something like 12 millimeters. If you're hovering, then I would go maybe between 15 to 17. Any areas where you have a tooth that say is over erupted, or you have a scan body or a particularly deep margin, then you can increase this up to 21. So areas like here, if I need to go back in again, so I'm going to quickly breeze over some of the great functions here that are more pertinent to the chairside workflow. So one example here is you have the instructions on where to scan and what to scan in this top part here. So you have your upper arch, you have your lower arch, you have your bite scan, and you have your completed form. If for whatever reason you accidentally scan the wrong arch, which can happen, you have a swapping function here. You have a results preview. So in order to process this unvoxelated file, it does take a little bit of time. And what you really don't want is to go to the process file and realize, oh, there's a bit of missing data on the margin, and you send the patient away, and then you're like, oh, Mr. or Mrs. Jones, can you please come back? I need to rescan. So if I was to quickly give a result preview of the margin, this is going to allow me to see what the final STL file is going to look like on a particularly sensitive area, margin, context, and things like that, that you need the lab to have for a good restoration. So really something that you're looking for is maybe like blood or tissue, anything that may, and especially with the color files, right? If you're going through, in this case, the gray model, but if you were looking at the patient's actual scan, you'd be looking for things like, cord or tissue that's collapsed, or maybe some blood or saliva. And in our case here, the margin looks great. So I can exit here, and this is okay to send to the lab. You have a margin marker here. So you really are eliminating any of the guesswork when you're sending your cases through MeditLink, because you can draw your own margin. So in the event that you find that you are not having proper seal, or for whatever reason, then you can take the control into your hands and do that. You also have an intro camera. So any additional information you want to pass along to your customer, then you can do that in a series of files as you export the case. So if I leave this function here, and I'm just going to quickly go over some of the tabs on the bottom. So you have a scan body finder. So for your implant restorations, you can log this for your lab. This is something you can also do in Exocad. But if you want to take some of the guesswork away, you don't want to type the name out of the implant company, the component, the number, then you can do it all here. Another really great feature is a color filter. So if you and your assistant are using black gloves, blue gloves, purple gloves, you can scan that color in, and the software will know to avoid those colors when you're scanning. So if you're retracting the lip with your glove, then the smart filter will know to avoid those colors. You also have a metal detector here for scanning. We've spoken with Medit, and they're looking to integrate this without the toggle. But this is in the case that you have a reflective crown, like a gold crown or some kind of filling, and it allows you to scan some of the more reflective surfaces. So The other thing with Medit is it allows you to finish the case in a printable format or a raw STL file. The printable format does take a little bit more time for processing, but if you have Exocad, then you really don't need to, so you can send this out more efficiently. So as we go back to the form, it's going to begin processing the data here. So I've sort of like a cooking show. I've already prepared this in advance. Here we go, scanning completed. So we have the raw data here. You have a couple options. So you can send it out in a link to be shared. So you can share this link as an export. This is the exporting function right here. And to the point of it being a color file, you have the ability to export it as an OBJ or PLY. So these are the two color files that are both read by, I believe, 3Shape and Exocad. So it's sort of CAD software dependent. So depending on which one, I know Exocad accepts OBJ files, and then you can attach your intraoral files, and then anything else you want to attach to this entire folder. Say you want to take a stump shade and you want to attach that, then you can. You have the option to compress the file as well for faster export. And to that note, if you want to create a partnership, the ease of use for Medit is that there are two types of files to be had here. You have the clinical version of Medit and then you have the lab version of Medit. So a clinic would download the clinic version, the lab would receive their version, and you can create a partnership between the two by creating a digital handshake, so to speak. So if I drag this page over. So if you click partners, for example, one of the labs we work with, fantastic lab, is Durban. So if I click Durban, they have two locations, the Burlington location and the one in Concord. You can create a partnership so that when you're ready to export the case and have it sent to them, you don't need to export the file, put it in an email, compress it, send it out to them. That exporting option is mainly for if they, for whatever reason, don't have Medit, but I mean, it's a free software that they can download on their end to receive their cases. So you would click order, and then you click the drop down and you send it to your partner, and you can add additional notes, and then delivery date, time, any of the pertinent information you want to give to the lab for delivery and whatnot can all be added here, which is a fantastic tool. And the last portion of the integration is really just going to the CAD software. So instead of opening the file, if you integrate Exocad Chairside, you can simply click the CAD software and it'll open Exocad Chairside. So the other thing to note is that when you're opening Exocad Chairside, there's a form that has to be created that is showing what to do. But because of the integration, it simply goes straight to the software, and it's already incorporated all the information that I plugged in from Medit. So now I can begin working right away. So from this part, I can let Ben take over to show the design portion.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mike. That was very informative, and it looks very straightforward and easy. I wonder if I could do that on the beach. So the handoff here is now over to Exocad. Ben, you're sharing your screen now, I guess?
Yep. Yeah, I'm sharing my screen now.
All right, take it away.
All right. So from here, basically, as you saw, it just launched whenever Mike clicked on the CAD there. And we go right into basically the scan that we got. In this case, we don't have an opposing, so we're just going to work with the one arch, but we set the current view. This is basically the orientation. A lot of times, certain scanners and the software will not know the coordinate system that was used from what scanner. So when it's brought in, if ever it's brought in, you see the red, you're basically looking at the inside. So and that's why we have this little kind of wizard box kind of guiding you. So sorry, didn't want to make anybody queasy there with the quick rotate, but we set the views basically saying this is our occlusal view. This is our top. So I just say set that as current view. And then we're right away onto the next step where we're detecting our margin. Now this is if it's not been drawn out in the Medit link. If it's drawn out in the Medit link, this margin line will actually be drawn out, and then I can just hit next and it will say, do you want to accept what was already drawn out? So you still have the option of changing it if you want to. So there's two different options. We have two different tabs. We have detect, which is kind of an automatic function. So as long as the margin line is very clear, so just like PVC impressions, if there was double cord packed and everything was exposed, then we'll see it no problem. If there's still a lot of saliva and nothing was exposed, well, we can't fix a bad impression, just like we can't fix a bad scan. But in this case, we can actually send it out and share it if we want to. So we can actually share this scene via dental share, which will send a view, HTML export. This will actually send a web viewer. So you can, as Scott said, be on the beach and receive this file and see through the web on your phone, just like, hey, you can communicate, I have this issue, not enough space, can't see the margin, insert whatever. I can add annotations to this and share it. So it kind of saves for a trip also, if anything needs to be communicated. So because this margin is so clear and easy to see, when I click detect, it picked it up, but 95% of the time it'll pick it up automatically. I can also add points if I want to make it more precise. And if not, if ever it's like an inlay onlay and it's not picking it up because it's kind of looking for those angle breaks, but on certain inlay onlays, you don't have that capability sometimes based on the situation, I can come in and actually draw in margin if I want. So I can add points wherever I want, and I can bring this up or down, and I can eliminate points as wanted. So you have kind of the flexibility of automation as well as manual. So best of both worlds, people that really want to fine tune it, that's great. Just understand that the more points you put in is not always better. So if I put a whole bunch of points in here, but I'm kind of jumping a little bit, I'm going to exaggerate and dramatize. But if I do something like this, what's going to happen is you're going to get a really jaggedy margin when you mill it. And it's not going to be because it's inaccurate. It's actually quite the opposite. It's going to be because it's super accurate. So it's picking up every single point. So more is not always better. So you want a nice flow. And again, this is not mandatory. The detect, I would say most of the time is good enough. And then you can just hit next. And then we have the insert direction of the crown. So I always like to consider my adjacent teeth. So if they're erupted and kind of going over the margin, I want to find a better angle. And you can see if I move it, it's showing me the red going over that margin line, that green line that I've drawn out. So I want to make sure that I can see my margin line and nothing is interfering with it. And if I like that, and again, the software does this automatically, and I would say most of the time it's great. So you can just hit next at this point as well. If not, if I want to fine tune it and say, you know what, I kind of prefer over here, then I can say set from current view, and this is my new path of insertion. So I hit next. And the goal behind the Chairside Exocad product is to make it very quick and easy to work with. So you have basically, basically the summarization of Chairside is a couple of clicks and you have a crown. So what we see here is we have the red, which represents minimum thickness. This is material based. So because Mike, when he set up the case, said this was, I believe this is glass ceramic, well, then I will have the minimum thickness set for that material. So that's what the red is here. And at any time you'll see in the future steps, if I go too thin, the red's gonna be exposed, and then I'll be able to see where the minimum thickness is. This step here is basically to enable me to either copy a tooth. So if I wanna copy this molar, I like it and I want it to be here, then I can do that by doing copy, clicking on this tooth and bringing it over. If I have a full arch scan and I want to copy the quadrant, the molar on the other quadrant, I can say mirror, and then when I click on that tooth, it's going to automatically rotate it and bringing it into this position. So if you like mirroring effects and making sure the teeth resemble each other, it's a great tool. If not, by just hitting next, it's going to bring me to the step where I have access to the different tooth libraries. And that's what we're going to do here. So you can see these teeth are actually backwards. You see I have the buccal on the lingual. And so if I go here, I can say swap. And this is just based on the scan orientation. It's not a big deal. Another quick way I can do it is also I could just grab that tooth and manually rotate it. So I could have just grabbed this and just rotated it, and that would have been fine. Either way work, either way are very quick. So here I have the different tooth libraries. I can either scroll through with the arrow here. I can use my wheel scroll on the mouse, or I can click here and go through all of these different tooth libraries. If there's one that you find yourself going to all the time, you can set it as your default by going into Tools and then setting it as that default library. So that will be the first one that is loaded every single time. Now, I haven't set the tooth in any way, shape, or form in relation to my natural dentition or my surrounding dentition, but I want to point out that we can see the red here. That's the minimum thickness kind of shining through. So here, I always recommend not spending too much time. You're just kind of giving it general positioning. And this is actually a great case. It's not perfect. You can see this tooth is kind of rotated. So we're gonna have a very small contact point here, and we'll only be able to do a small contact point here. So kind of real life. So I'm gonna just look at this. I'm following this nice curve. And then if I hold control, I can rotate this. I can also scale it either just globally or bidirectionally by holding hotkeys on my keyboard. So I can scale this just to help with positioning. I can see my central dissectional groove kind of going through, following the natural dentition around me. So just like that, I'm pretty happy with this. I'm going to hit next, and you're going to see this tooth library is going to now seal to the margin. So now I'm actually working on the crown. It's no longer just a tooth library being positioned. So here I have different ways of doing this. I have the anatomical tab here, which basically just gives me landmarks to play with. So I can grab a cusp and I can pull it out, move it however I want. I can make this taller, shorter. Tooth parts is, as everybody knows, the anatomical feature. So mesial, distal, buccal, lingual. So if I grab this part, pull it out, it's the whole buccal that's moving. Lingual, mesial, distal. I can also do occlusal if I want. Ridges is just the transition between the cusp and the base of the central dissectional groove. So if I move this, it's moving the ridges. So it really helps to fine tune for those contact points. So here I can actually bring this up if I want. And this one's actually pretty good. The other way I can do this, if I go to free, this is basically the carving tools. So again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time making a perfect crown. I just want to show you how easy it is to make an acceptable to good crown. And if you want to spend a great amount of time, you can. So whether you spend a ton of time or a little bit of time, either way, you can get an acceptable result. It's just easy to get caught in the rabbit hole of making everything perfect. So I can understand that as well. So we have different tools. This is an ad where it will blend all the surrounding material around this circle that you see, that green circle. This is our carving tool, where I can actually carve out anatomy if I want. So if I want to make this a little more pronounced. And one thing I want to point out is if you want to show the patient while they're in the chair, or if they're nearby, if you're trying to do this quickly, one useful tool, instead of them seeing a yellow tooth, which they're going to be like questioning themselves on what they're getting exactly, the True Smile module will actually enable you to show tooth color. So this actually makes it a little more realistic, easier to show, and the patient might have a little less concern than getting a yellow tooth. And anywhere where I carve it, you can see that the shading differs. Once I'm happy with that, I can adapt. These are my contact points, so I can hide my jaw and see my contact points, how broad they are or how strong they are. And right now I'm going to try and hide this right here. Because I'm sharing the screen, right below this is our color map. It's basically a show distance. And this will actually show me how strong this contact is. I can go to cut intersections. I'm going to hide the map so we can see the actual effect it does. See, it's showing us the adjacent teeth. And now I have that contact and it's set to 0. So I'm right at 0. And I actually don't have any concavity, so I set it up pretty nicely. But if I want, I can come back and kind of smooth these areas right? So you can see here, it kind of carves in. Whoops. I can undo up to 25 times. Don't ask me why I know that specific number. Just took the time to count it. And there we go. So once I'm happy with this, I can hit next. Now, obviously on the adapt tab, if I had an opposing arch, I would actually adapt the occlusal as well. And we can create cut intersections, actually cuts anything that's intersecting with either opposing or adjacent teeth, the data that's coming through. So it creates kind of a chop, a hard cut, a wear facet, where shape preserving will try and keep the overall proportions of the tooth and the anatomy and just kind of move it out of occlusion by whatever value is there. For the opposing for occlusion, most of the time you'll set that to not 0, but actually like a 0.3 out of occlusion. You want to give yourself a little room for the glaze. So once we hit next, we're done. And that's as quick as it is. I actually went through a lot of explanations on this and took my time, and it was still relatively quick to create a crown. So now, because it's chairside, we can link this to a milling machine if we want. And then we have the different blocks available. In this case, this is just a demo machine. I'm not actually linked to a mill, but that's also functionality that's available with chairside. You can actually stop here and send it if I want. I can do dental share and send it to a production facility, or I can, if I'm linked to a mill myself, I can mill it myself. And depending on the material, I will have the different blocks available. So as far as milling speed, processing speed, and all that, there's so many variables that are involved, computers, basically how complex the case is, and the strategies themselves. But I'm sure with Proto, you're in great hands, and they will take care of all of that. It's a seamless integration. It's not anything you need to actually concern yourself if you do go that route and integrate with a mill. So with that being said, I'm pretty much done on this. This is, I would pick the shade and the block that I need, and then hit next, and I would go into basically the calculation and sending it to the mill. Production would be done.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Ben. That was almost a little bit too easy. We're way ahead of schedule.
I was trying to slow it down, and I just, I couldn't.
You should have used a slower computer. What were you thinking?
I know, right? I know. My Commodore 64 is a little dusty.
Well, it actually, in all seriousness, does show just how far Exocad has come in entering this space with a beautiful streamlined product. We've so far, for the chairside licenses that we have sold into the marketplace, we've gotten amazing feedback. And it's for a variety of reasons. The product itself is really well thought out. Exocad has taken a lot of cues for what doesn't work in some of the competing products. And then, of course, to just, give credit where credit's due, we have a lot of excellent technical people that we're connected with, both at Proto3000 and with the manufacturer Exocad. So if any of this is interesting and you'd like to learn more, you can email me directly, scott@proto3000.com. So SCOTT, don't forget the second T, at proto3000.com. And we have a team of competent, passionate salespeople and technical people that we can connect you with to take you down the journey, depending on what your needs are. So with that, I'm going to bring up the Q&A screen here, and we can jump into the question and answer period. So there's a Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to type your questions in there, and we can go through and answer them one at a time. So first one we have here, how will you figure out the bite pattern as you don't have the upper? I was actually wondering the same thing, Ben, when you were making adjustments to the occlusal surface. Did you want to handle that one, Ben? You might be on mute.
There you go. Sorry, I just had to unmute myself. I thought I was unmuted and I was talking to myself.
You can turn your video on if you want as well, although, yeah, it'll show in the sidebar.
Okay, that's fine. I just don't want to break the camera. So yeah, no, in this case, we just didn't have one. So for this particular scan, we didn't scan the opposing arch. So it would be as you figured, it would be guesswork at this point. So this would not be a real case in the sense that I would need the opposing dentition to really make sure this is all right. But in the design portion of it, where I was at that adapt screen, all it would do is instead of just adjacent, I would also do occlusal. And when I position my tooth, I would actually see those contact with the show distance. I could actually see in the color scheme where I'm hitting the opposing arch. So it's not like it would be any heavy lifting or any extra steps. It would be in that same step, and it would take maybe an extra minute. So it really is not a huge change. It's just in this case, as this person, I'm not sure, Akshay, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right.
Okay, you
but
don't have
yeah,
to help people out, but yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this case, as you've noted, yeah, it wouldn't be a tooth that I would send out just because I haven't adapted to my opposing dentition.
Okay, and then a follow-up question: how fast is the process compared to lab design?
As far as production, or as far, I guess I have follow-up questions here, but
Sure.
So as for design, just for design,
Yes.
it's actually it's a little quicker just because Chairside does some of the automation already, whereas the lab design gives you full functionality as far as if you want to really play with everything. The idea behind Chairside is to streamline it so that if they have a patient in the chair, they're just hitting next, and a lot of it is being automated. So you're just positioning the tooth, ideally hitting adapt, and then off you go. Whereas in the full CAD version, then it's like basically, okay, how deep do you want to go into adapting to your natural surroundings and manually do it?
Okay, great. Thanks for that. Got another question that came in. What is the experience like holding the scanner? And you mentioned Medit. Which model do you have it to show? Hey, Mike, you've got the scanner there, do you not?
I do.
You want to show it to everybody? Okay, so this is the Medit i500. As you can see, it's a nice, sleek, lightweight design. They were a little bit later entering the market with their product, which is a good thing because they took cues from other companies' designs and they did what we feel is all the right things in the right places. So the tip is nice and small to fit in all the areas of the mouth, feels very comfortable in the hand. The cord that they included is an appropriate length. Things like that, and that's me. You know, Mike, you could probably talk a little bit more with more experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an autoclavable tip, so it's very easy to snap on and off. And yeah, I mean the size is, you're absolutely right. It's appropriate. It's got a built-in fan that can basically, you know, prevent any of the fogging on the little small mirror there. It's fantastic scanner, very ergonomic. There's really only two buttons. So you have the start and stop button here for the scanning, and then you have the on and off button on the underside. So easy to use.
Just to double down on that, Mike, I do want to tell a little quick story, and I hope nobody minds here, but for ease of use on that scanner, I was able to previously scan my own mouth. And I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but if you can scan your own mouth, then you know it's easy, because it's really hard to scan your own mouth, moving the tongue out of the way and everything. And it took me less than 10 minutes to scan my own mouth. So
The scan yourself test. Okay.
yeah.
We should have set that up as part of this webinar. Maybe next time. Maybe when we can all be in the same room together again. I can't wait for that. Someone's asking if this webinar is being recorded. Yes, it is being recorded. So if you know anybody that could not attend today but would like to see this webinar, all the attendees will receive a follow-up email with a link to that recording once it is ready. Okay, we have another question. What is the surface area of the scanner compared to other scanners in the market? The surface area. So the surface area of the scanner in terms of
How much area it covers, I believe.
like the scan. Okay, the scan area.
Yeah, that's something I'd have to look into. As far as what it can cover, I know some previous scanners may have had issues with, you know, scanning something like the palate. We've actually tested this live with the with a doctor's assistant, and he was able to scan the palate. So any time you're trying to send a case out for, say, like an RPD or something like that, you can absolutely scan the palate, scan the sulcus, whatever it is you need. Stitching of that data would have been troublesome in the past, but the i500 had no problem with that.
And as far as the surface area, it's really difficult to measure that because it also depends on how how much vertical clearance you have, how far away you are.
Absolutely.
So.
Okay. Do you offer training to, to teach the scanning process? So we do offer training. Anything that is purchased through Proto3000 is installed at your facility by our trained technical installation staff, and then we also provide training. The goal is for you to understand how to not only use the equipment, but to benefit from it, to profit from it, to be more efficient from it, etc. So yes, absolutely, training is included upon installation. In addition to that, if you'd like to take a course or anything outside of the standard training, these are things that we're making available. And with partnerships with Exocad, for example, there's more resources available now than ever. But yes, we do give you training upon purchase of any equipment from Proto3000. All right, is there any, can the i500 scanner scan edentulous arches?
Right, so that was back to my previous point, it can. Previously, it needed reference points to be able to do that, such as like a tooth or something like that. But now the scanner is much better that it can scan edentulous arches. Okay,
great. Well, that's it for the questions. So if anybody else on this call has any questions that they think of later, feel free to reach out to myself and the team. Again, Scott@proto3000.com. Just fire me a quick email. We are very attentive. We love what we do. We've got a passionate group of people that stand behind us that all want to empower you with the latest and greatest in digital technology. So I definitely appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day on a beautiful Friday. I wish you all a fantastic and wonderful weekend. Thanks, Ben, for joining us all the way from, I don't know, whatever bridge you crawled out from underneath.
I'm actually based out of Gatineau, Quebec.
Great. Okay, there we go.
So there is a bridge involved. There is a bridge involved.
There's the bridge. Yeah. And Mike, thank you as well. I know you're busy supporting our customers day in, day out, but I think this was beneficial for everybody to see the scanner in action.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, and to all the attendees, again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, Scott@proto3000.com. We'll end it here. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your wonderful day and keep smiling. Take care.
Take care.